Hello! This is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from WyldSilverwolf. And WyldSilverwolf has a question about pagan parenting. And there are actually several questions which WyldSilverwolf has asked, but in this vlog I'm only going to deal with one. And it is this. What, from my childhood as a pagan, would I do differently if I were raising children today? And I have a very definite answer for that. When I was a child, back in the 60s, my family were very secretive about their practices and rather paranoid about them. I can remember my father giving me instructions for how to behave if a lynch mob came for us. It was very much a siege mentality that my family had at that point in time. By the 70s, that attitude had changed as society had changed. And by the mid-70s, I was quite publicly pagan. But I will tell you that one of the things that has always driven me throughout my life is my reaction to that initial secrecy and paranoia. I've always refused to be closeted. I've always refused not to be public and accessible as a pagan, partly because of that early upbringing. And if there were anything I would do differently, it would be absolutely not to have that kind of secrecy. And one of my greatest motivations is the idea that no child should have to live that way. And that's whether they're pagan or Muslim or any other minority religion in any part of the world. I don't think that it is at all appropriate for children to have to live in fear, or anyone else, just because of who they are. And I've said that many times, and I regard this as an absolute attitude of the Correllian tradition, that we do not approve of people being in fear simply because of who they are, and that people, to have peace, must also have the freedom to be who they are, as long as they are in fact living good, peaceful lives. So when we talk about the peace campaign, and we've talked about this there, peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is being able to live as a decent, law-abiding citizen, regardless of who you are, and not being afraid because of your race or your religion or your sexual orientation, etc. And we feel very strongly about this. I feel very strongly about it, having been raised in secrecy and paranoia. And I absolutely would not want to see families have to live that way, and would not do so myself if I were raising children now. Of course, I am in a strong position, stronger than many people, and many people do still have to live in secrecy, and this is one of the reasons why we must continue to protect the rights and expand the rights of our people, and to make sure that this is not something carried into the future, that in the future we can live like everyone else. So if you want to know something I would do differently from my childhood, that's it. Most important thing. And if there's one thing I would like to see differently for future generations of pagans, is no one having to live in that kind of secrecy and fear. So those are my thoughts on the matter. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. The blade represents the Correllian virtue of courage, the ability to meet and overcome challenges.